Programming often means dealing with and transforming lists of data. So I've got a simplified list of data here. It's just an array of numbers. And so if I run into a list like this, perhaps I want to look at sort of every two pairs of data in this list to see how they compare with one another so that I can find some sort of trend or do some sort of transformation. So I want to see, how does this first item compare to the item after it? How does that item then compare to the item after it? So on and so forth. So the way that I might do that is I could create some sort of global variable, and I could keep track of what the previous item was as I go into the next one. Or I could create like a doubly nested loop where I sort of iterate through this twice such that I'm like comparing sort of the ith item with the i+1 item. There's definitely different ways to do this, but one way that I've found that I think is sort of conceptually simpler is to take this list here, data, and just say, give me the first n-1 items. Not all the items, just all of them except for the last one. So I'll say first data.size -1, and that gives me everything except for the last. And then similarly, I can say, give me the last n-1 items. So that gives me everything except for the first. And so if I take those two lines and I zip them together, then what I get is a pairing of every two items in the list consecutively. So I get 1 to 2, then I get 2 to 3, 3 to 4, so on and so forth until the end of the list. And so from here, what I can do then is all sorts of comparisons. For instance, I can transform this into a set of the deltas of all of these pairings. So I could say, I'm going to get, I guess, x and y. And I could say, what is x minus y? And mapping that would produce sort of the differences of all of these things. I could instead take this list of pairings and try and find all of the places where there are gaps greater than 1. So I could filter that down and say xy, where y minus x is greater than 1. And that would produce these two, the jump from 4 to 6 and the jump from 8 to 10. Alternatively, or as another example, I could find the point at which we first have a decrease in the list because it tends to be increasing, and you may want to find the point at which it now decreases. So I could say find xy and say at what point is x greater than y. And this would find this dip from 10 to 9. So while there's a lot of ways we could approach doing this kind of data comparison, I find this to be just a really clean, slick way to do it in Ruby. To take the first part of the list, last part of the list, zip it together, and to have all of these pairings to then work with.